Justin, I wanted to ask you first, kind of what were the origins of the story? Because there's so much in this movie, but at the core of it is a kid trying to get his trainers back. You know, it's quite a simple premise, but there's so much stuff on top. What was kind of the genesis of the idea for you?
It's actually inspired by the time I was actually 16 and I got jumped by like 10 kids in a West Oakland parking lot because I had some new Nikes on, some new trainers on, and yeah, I heard him say he's got the Prestos, and it was like all over downhill from there. But the emotional impetus was definitely when, you know, my older brothers saw me like all bloodied coming back home and were like, "You're a man now," and it was that moment that was I was like proud but just confused at the same time, and having to go through, you know, all the humiliation of other kids making fun of you, and that was really at the core. I wanted to go back and explore that moment and explore why, you know, specifically young men act the way they do, and why violence is always synonymous with masculinity in society. So that's where it started, and then from there, other themes and subject matter and the friendship of the kids on the Odyssey kind of came naturally out of that.
For you, Chris, I mean, when you read this, I mean, you probably read a lot of scripts. You know, as an actor, you read a lot of scripts. When you read this and when you meet Justin and see his vision, I mean, you must have been just so. I really want to be a part of this project.
Yeah, I remember the first time I read it, and I was so curious who wrote it, and my aunt actually sent me the script, and I think he had told me to do a self-tape for him, and you know, that's when it's before the audition process, or usually they don't always have you do self-tapes, but he wanted me to see.
I think there was like, I couldn't see him in person, so
Yeah.
I was like, send him video.
Yeah, like just some sort of video, and yeah, it was like a scene where I'm yelling, and it was really funny, and I brought out a lot of character.
It's actually a deleted scene.
Yeah, it was a deleted scene. So, and then he calls me in for an audition, and
he's actually screaming wildly. That was it. He's just screaming.
Yeah, that was really it.
It was a hilarious scream, though.
And I remember getting to the audition, and they put me, Joaquin, and Chris all in the same room. And I remember seeing Justin. He was sitting like kind of behind one of the casting directors, and I was wondering, who the heck is this guy? Like, because I never saw a picture of him, so I'm thinking it's a black dude that wrote this story, honestly. And and he's like giving us direction, telling us to switch places, looking at us, and I'm thinking, oh, so he might be the guy. And yeah, it was. I was really happy to be a part of it from the start.
Yeah. It's important. Obviously, this is a story that's quite. Obviously, you kind of experienced it. Was it important when you were telling the story to make sure you had all of the kind of grittiness and all of the kind of real aspects of it in terms of the, you know, you say masculinity, but also the kind of violent side of it as well?
Yeah, it was very important. I think that stories like this, part of the reason I wanted to tell it, because I felt like I hadn't seen this point of view before. And a lot of me and my friends experienced it every day, and it was always around the corner, you know, that kind of violence, that kind of threat, that kind of like knowing where you can go and where you can't go. And so authenticity was like probably at the top. As soon as something felt contrived or a performance didn't feel like it was actually coming from the world, then I think you lose your audience, or you lose you know, the gravity and the weight of like the stakes that actually happen. This is actually happens. You know, it's not a comic fantasy or anything like that. It was really important that you know, aside from the three leads, you know, we recasted everybody else that's in the movie is from there. You know, I was like literally running up to people being like, do you want to be in the movie? Where we were shooting, and hitting up friends, younger brothers, and on Instagram, and being like, yo, tell this person to come audition.
From an indie point of view, I guess you didn't have a lot of money to spend, but the visual was just fantastic in the movie. I mean, was it a challenge for you to bring those to the screen with a limited budget? And then for you, I mean, watching and seeing the final product, it must have been amazing to see what you'd done.
I mean, being on set, you already knew it was going to be amazing, just from the angles and just colors and everything. It was very detailed, every shot and everything. So I knew Justin was very particular with the way he wanted things. So we all just knew it was going to be a very different look in terms of visually, and
yeah. I mean, we shot on location everywhere, where in the neighborhoods I grew up in, and even if we were in a bedroom, like all the color of the wallpapers were all a choice. It was all a discussion between me, the cinematographer, and the production designer. So down to like how we were gonna make the shoes, the bread ones, stand out against cement, or Brandon stand out against his house. So a lot of choices and work went into it, and we had a limited budget. And I will say that Michael Reagan, the cinematographer, did an amazing job, and Aaron McGill, and literally like every light we had was on. I think like all the trucks were empty every day. It would be like, we need more lights, but we didn't have it, so we worked with what we had. But it works out, and we found ways to make it feel bigger than it was, I think. And that was part of the creative discussion from the beginning, was even in talking to them and to the team, it was always like, this has got to feel like an odyssey. It should feel like almost like as big as a fable.
Obviously, you said you casting people left and right from Friends and everything else, but you managed to get Mahershala Ali, who's now a big Oscar winner and everything else. What was it like having someone of his kind of presence on set? And for you, I mean, that must have been such an amazing experience.
Yeah,
being with
him. He was really, really genuine and just a really nice guy. And then you also just felt his presence anytime he walked into a room, even off camera. It was the parts where he's coming in the room and we're sitting there, we weren't really acting. It was like, oh crap, just sit up straight. He was just a really nice guy, giving us a lot of advice and how to succeed in this business and how to be successful young black men in this business. It's he's been doing this for 20 years and he's just now getting that credit and what he deserves. And I honestly wasn't too familiar with a lot of his work. I'd seen him in things, but I wasn't familiar with his House of Cards at the time when we were shooting. And then after, I had to study up and watched all of House of Cards, and I was like, wow, okay. So this dude's, he's the man, okay.
And also, I mean, talking about Moonlight, which went on to win loads of awards, I guess for you as an independent filmmaker to see, obviously the content's a bit different, but in terms of seeing the success that it's had and getting an audience and getting people in the cinema to see the movie, it must give you such hope for kind of the future of movies when you want to make them. You want to make your own stories.
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to, well, one is great, and a producer was on Moonlight as well, so there was like a connection, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe he did so much work in the past year. It's incredible. But I even talked to him on set at the time when we were shooting about just like, what do you want to do? And then he won an Academy Award, and I'm like, what do you want to do? And so hopefully that collaboration will happen again.
Are you hoping this one kind of crosses over? Because, I mean, the themes and everything are quite prevalent in the UK now, obviously, there's a lot of this kind of thing happening in the UK. I mean, are you hoping that it does cross over and does find an audience in the UK as well?
I hope so.
Definitely. I feel like it's extremely relatable.
We've been walking around and all we see are shoe stores everywhere.
Yeah. So, everybody's got some nice shoes out. Everybody's.
Always queues.
The trainer
games.
Street,
there's queues for when new trainers comes out. Like it's they're waiting to see Jay-Z or something. Wow. Yeah. It's pretty mad.
So that gives me hope. But other than the fact that the device is, the trainers in the story, I think that there is a universal theme of just, in like teenageism, of you think your life might change if you have this one thing, or like we all covet something, and it's about friendship and social status at the end of the day during that adolescent period. So I think it'll translate. I hope so.
I think it will. Listen, guys, thanks so much for your time. It's an absolutely brilliant film.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate talking to you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Great meeting you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
Cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey You Guys!